We're bleeding love in the Teacher's Lounge, and we're back to black in the Civil War. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. We have got 4, I'd like to say, bangers for Van to talk about today, but obviously I have no idea if they are or if they aren't, because that's what Van's job is all about. So, The Teacher's Lounge, Back to Black on the way, the new Amy Winehouse documentary, I guess, docu-series, what would you call it?
Biopic. This one's just a straight drama.
That's right. Okay. Well, even more intrigued about that one then. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Civil War, and we're going to start with Bleeding Love. So, talk to me about this one then, Van.
Right, the skeptic in you immediately thought the same thing everyone thought, I'm sure, when they heard the
Leona
title
Lewis.
Bleeding Love. Leona Lewis, right? You think, yeah. Now, funnily enough, you're not far off, because that song does come up as a plot point in the movie. So, this is a new movie that stars Ewan McGregor, of all people. And it's a father-son road trip movie starring Ewan McGregor and his real-life daughter. So, as a fictional father and daughter, the idea is that he has walked out on her years previous. He has a history of substance abuse problems. He doesn't really know her in her adult years. She's sort of college age, early 20s kind of thing. And she has had an overdose. And then he has come to the rescue, and he has offered to take her away on a sort of father-daughter excursion so she can clear her head, they can reconnect, things like that. In reality, he's actually planning to take her to rehab, again, without her knowledge. He's not quite told her yet. And we get all this information as he continuously phones his new wife. I think we're led to believe he left her mum for, which is interesting if you know the domestic history of Ewan McGregor, if we're being quite honest. And it is about the exploration of their relationship as they go on this road trip and start to reconnect as a father and daughter. I've got a clip for you. And this is, just to put this in context for you, the clip is he's pitching an AA meeting to someone who's just had an overdose. So just listen to the tone he gets for that.
Oh, no, I'm not going in there. I don't even believe in God.
That's an AA meeting.
Yeah, I know. They try to turn you into some Jesus freak. I'm not going.
No, they don't. I think it would do us both good to go to a meeting.
Us? No, I'm good. You go ahead to your culty little group meeting.
Look, if you don't like it, then, we can leave early. We don't have to... But I haven't been to a meeting for a while, and I think it would be good for both of us.
If I go in, will you take me back to San Diego?
Why would you want to go back to San Diego?
Because it's my home.
Yeah, but you don't really have a home there just now.
I have options.
Ewan McGregor always sounds so sincere in everything that he does.
He does. He really... I'll give you that. He does. And he's starred in some dross over the years, let's be honest.
Yeah.
McGregor's hit rate is iffy, isn't it? And I'm sad to say this is definitely on the miss side of his hit rate. So... let's get the obvious one out of the way, which is Clara McGregor, his real-life daughter playing his fictional daughter, in a story that, wow, it feels like you're doing your therapy in public. This just feels like family counselling being done in the public light today, especially when you get to the, you left my mom for someone younger, and yeah... because, again, getting the tabloid side of that, not good, that one. It's also not good... To watch Clara McGregor acting, because she's not very good, to be really honest.
Ouch!
I mean, it's nepotistic to the nth degree. I mean, it really is. You cannot figure out for the life of you what anybody was thinking. Like, oh, this seems like a film the world needs, and in reality, nobody in the world actually needs this except Clara McGregor. Now. It goes there is that point when they do actually bring the Leona Lewis song into it, and the actual reasoning for it is because that's a song they bonded over. And if you think about how old the song Bleeding Love is, it makes sense, because that was what, 16, 17, maybe even more.
It's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be about 6, 7. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, it's only a 96-minute long film, but she's bad. The story is creaky. The script is quite dull. And I mean, when I say she's bad, by the way, if we're going with Nepo babies on this one, I will point out that recently you and I talked about Drive Away Dolls, starring Margaret Qualley, who is Andy McDowell's daughter, another Nepo baby.
Yeah.
And I will say that Clara McGregor is not as excruciatingly awful as Margaret Qualley was in that movie. She's better than that. She does, however, have no charisma on screen whatsoever. The performance is, I don't know, it feels like one of those very drama school kind of turns. Like, it reminded me at times of a moment in the Entourage series when Stellan Skarsgård ridicules Vincent Chase's acting. It felt a lot like the performance Stellan Skarsgård.
So what, like overacted, you mean?
It's a very twitchy performance. It's one of those performances, you get this out of a lot of younger performers, where they think that the twitchiness adds real, and you're like, it doesn't, especially because that's what theatre's for, and you feel that all the way through. Now, say 96 minutes, not the longest film in the world, mercifully short, if we're being honest, but you do feel every minute of it. And frankly, Ewan McGregor is not charming enough to carry it, and he seems to know that he needs to try doing that. You can feel him trying. Like, it's palpable, that effort that he's giving through it. And the problem is, you are not invested in this in any way because, frankly, outside of his charm, the movie is quite unlikable. She, as a character, is quite unlikable. You've got no investment in repairing this relationship because, frankly, you think he's better off. All the way through, you do think he's better off. And the cynic in the back of your mind is thinking, maybe you should just get back on the phone talking to not Mary Elizabeth Winstead, because that just seemed more interesting than any scene you were sharing with your daughter. Supporting cast-wise, there's no one of name in here. It's, like I say, there's a couple of moments in it we just sit and think, like, this is so badly written. There's a sequence in it in which I'm just going to say that I keep saying Clara Oswald in my head. Clara McGregor. Clara Oswald is a Doctor Who character. Clara McGregor at one point gets bitten by an insect or a snake or something in a particular region in which you just find yourself thinking, firstly, you're the first woman in history who didn't notice getting an injury there. And you do find yourself thinking, this is kind of indicative of a movie that really hasn't been well thought out. It feels very drama school, like incredibly, all the way through, which kind of is in line with her performance because the material is so dinner theatre drama school. Her performance kind of lines up with it. It is, it's co-written, I believe, by Clara McGregor, which
I was about to say, co-written by Clara McGregor, stars Clara McGregor, funded by Ewan McGregor.
You wonder, don't you? You do think.
I did think
the other part for me is I'm starting to think, I'm sorry, if I wanted to see Ewan McGregor and somebody from his personal life on a road trip, would I not be watching the Motorcycle series?
Exactly.
Because that just seems so much a better use of my time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you. It does sound from what you've said and how it feels that actually he's decided, I'm going to give my daughter a bit of a leg up. I'll get a film going. I'll finance it. She's written it. She can star in it, and actually not thought about the basis of it and how it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, did anyone expect that this was going to make any money? Because, I mean, there's no marketing for it. It's out in cinemas from today. There is sod all marketing for this. And you can kind of see why, because good luck selling it. Like, really good luck. Good luck selling Ewan McGregor's Family Counselling, the movie. Because it's about as fun as it sounds. I mean, I know it's not meant to be fun, but no. Just avoid this one like the plague. Go and watch paint dry, reorganise your sock drawer, do literally anything else in the universe, bar maybe watching The Flash. And, yeah, you'd be better off.
It does sound like they're literally hoping that the name Ewan McGregor will sell this and get people in cinemas and on seats, but like you say, that's a tough risk. Tough risk. Well, if you want to put your bum on a seat to watch this and probably fall asleep, according to Van, you can, because it's in cinemas from today and it's called Bleeding Love. Right, we've got Back to Black on the way. We're going to talk about Civil War next, which is also in cinemas from today, so stay right where you are. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. Let's crack straight on with our next movie then. We are going to look at Civil War. Kirsten Dunst in this one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Kirsten Dunst, Kaylee Spaney, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Nick Offerman, Jesse Plemons, who also happens to be Kirsten Dunst's husband, if we're keeping score. Right, this is the new
And
movie.
Vince Pisani.
Yes, as well. Sorry, it's Statcast, you kind of forget. Right. This
It
is
is.
the latest movie from writer-director Alex Garland. Do you know the name offhand? So we've talked about one or two of his movies in the past.
I do.
Obviously, started out as an author, wrote the book that the movie The Beach was based on. He then wrote 28 Days Later, then wrote Sunshine. So these are all like Danny Boyle movies. And then around the 2010s, went into directing himself with Ex Machina, with Annihilation. I feel like I'm forgetting one. He wrote the script for Dread in the meanwhile as well. And of course, now has done this. And this apparently has been such a horrible experience for him that he's decided to give up directing entirely based on this. So this is the very last time that we get to say from director Alex Garland, which kills me inside.
Wow.
I promise. So, basic premise here. To put simply, imagine January 6th, the movie, is the short version. Slightly longer version. Modern day America is in a state of actual civil war. The war has been raging for an undisclosed amount of time. Basically, the Civil War comprises a union between between California and Texas, I believe, and they make up the one side, and then you have everyone else makes up the other. We don't really ever get the root of the conflict. We just know America is in a literal state of war, as in there's gunfire on the streets, explosions. The country is derelict at this point, blown out buildings, the works. Into this mix comes Kirsten Dunst as Lee, a veteran war photographer who, prior to all of this, had cut her teeth, overseas as a war reporter, having gone into things like Syria and Iran, things like that. And she, when we meet her, it's at the very beginning of the movie, we meet her in New York, in the press pool, in a New York that feels it has its resources dwindling, has power cuts on the reg. The internet comes and goes. They can't upload the photos that they take in the day. It takes all night just to upload the pictures. And they literally are they wear press flat jackets like actual war journalists do and go into the fighting to document and take the pictures that will define the history of this war. We meet a young photojournalist played by Kaylee Spaney, who recently played Priscilla Presley in Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, and she tags along on a journey that Lee is taking along with her partner from New York to DC, the 800-mile journey from New York to DC. They're going to drop a colleague of theirs off at the front along the way, and they are setting out to secure an interview with the reclusive president, played by Nick Offerman, who... Tell me if this sounds familiar. We are told has nothing to do with the press and has not been interviewed in at least 3 years. And whenever a press member is seen near the White House, typically gets shot in the face. And they take a young journalist along for the ride on this journey as we road trip across war-torn America. Have a listen to this clip as Kaylee Spaney and Kirsten Dunst talk about the logistics of this life.
Lee, I'm sorry for jamming my way into your ride, okay? I know you're really angry about it, and I know you think I don't know, but...
I'm not angry about that, Jesse. I don't care what you do or don't know.
Okay, but you are angry with me.
There is no version of this that isn't a mistake. I know, because I'm it. Joe and Sammy are it.
It's my choice.
Right. And I'll remember that when you lose your or you get blown up or shot.
I've got to say, this intrigues me. I loved Ex Machina. I love that kind of futuristic sci-fi vibe with things. And I've got to say, looking at the trailer, the CGI in this looks incredible, assuming they didn't have all those live jets flying over and all the, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I was watching the film thinking, I assume that they didn't blow up most major American landmarks and start firing rockets at the Lincoln Memorial and things like that. But yeah, I did have that thought in it. There is a wonderful naturalism to the visual effects in this. Like, they are seamless. Like, you can't tell they're visual effects, except for the reality of them clearly not being able to, like, blow up the White House and things. You obviously, they have to be visual effects. It is very seamless, but the thing is, more than the sensationalism of calling it, say, January the 6th, the movie, as I've just done, it is very much a story about war journalism, about the importance of war journalism, but more than anything as well, about the horrors of, something that we take for granted happening overseas, happening on your doorstep. And we get told this a few times by Kirsten Dunst, for instance, when we get stories of their families, for instance, who they're told, oh, they're at home on a farm pretending that this isn't happening because they're isolated enough. And you're like, yes, because that's kind of the de facto thing that we do. You look at how we view things in the Ukraine at the moment, and Gaza in particular at this moment in time, and how we have a somewhat detached sensibility towards that in the West because it's not on our doorstep. We don't have to live with seeing it. And this is very much addressing that head on. Apparently it was written before all of this. This was written before January the 6th. It was written before Ukraine. It was damn sure written before Gaza. But you can't help but feel that this is one of those. This is like Mission Impossible doing the AI story. Like, wow, you got kind of lucky in a strange way, because this turned out to be really prescient, topical, and of our time. Performances are great. Dunst is doing world-weary here in a way that I never would have expected. I would have thought that if Dunst was going to do this, it would be 20 years in the future. But she's playing this like with the sensibility of like a grizzled middle-aged veteran really well. Stephen McKinley Henderson, most recently, I think, seen in Dune, kind of got cut out of the sequel, as far as I know. But he gets kind of the sage Morgan Freeman type role. Goes exactly where you think it's going to go. The film is not unpredictable. Say. And there's an absolutely barnstorming, I want to say, sort of extended cameo from Jesse Plemons, as we say, he's Dunst's real-life husband. But he gets a small role in here that you'll have seen in the trailers, and you've seen about half the role if you've seen the trailers. But, oh my God, just a really chilling, menacing turn. This was harrowing, it was gripping, it was thrilling, it was badass at times. The final 20 minutes of it are like the best Call of Duty walkthrough you've ever seen. Have you ever seen one of those YouTube videos where someone plays Call of Duty?
Yeah.
It's like watching that for 20 minutes at the end, only with actual emotional pathos. It's very well judged in that it knows how much to give away and how much to hold back in order to basically keep the focus on the emotional heft of the story, on that message, on that this is your doorstep, you don't take it serious unless it isn't. On that sensibility, by doing, I think it's an incredibly well done movie. I think if it's a real shame because it's got quite sniffy reviews. It's had some sniffy reviews. Like, it's very mixed. Some people love it, some people hate it. So it's a very mixed bag. I fall on the side of absolutely loving this. I think it's a real shame if this does, in fact, if Alex Garland goes through with it and turns out to have this as his final movie. I think we've really lost something there. Oh, when we were talking about his films, we forgot about Men, by the way. He directed Men a couple of years ago, which we reviewed.
Yeah.
But no, I really loved this. And you can, on the one hand, go in and watch it just as an action movie. But it is an action movie, an action thriller, effectively, with gravitas. It comes close to Black Hawk Down at times, but in the continental United States, which with all of the requisite imagery that you're hoping for, troops on the Statue of Liberty and things like that, it's the movie you think it is, but it is a fair bit more as well. Now, I don't begrudge people taking umbrage with certain parts of it, and obviously I know politically on the American side, obviously it's going to be dicey, because although Nick Offerman's president, who we only see twice, I think, like at the very beginning, very end, although he's not playing Trump, he is playing what's very clearly a sort of Republican archetype, a MAGA type. He's very much playing a sort of MAGA presidential figure. And his opening, because he gets to open the movie, which, by the way, the whole movie features incredible sound design. It's worth saying that as well. The sound design to it is really something. Like, gunshots in the distance, the sound of being next to war. We talked about a Zone of Interest and how it's next to the Holocaust kind of thing. This has that same kind of feel. But yeah, Offerman gets to open the movie, and just in the space of literally 30 seconds of screen time, you're like, oh wow, we're really going for this. Like, it's very obvious that everyone is on a very specific page with this, and I read it wholeheartedly. I was really in on this. Do see this. You're going to love this when you get the chance, I think.
Well, you sold it to me. Civil War is in cinemas from today, so you can go and watch it. Now, we have still got 2 movies to talk about that Van has already seen. The Teacher's Lounge coming up, but next, Back to Black. If you were an Amy Winehouse fan, or maybe you still are, this is going to interest you, so we'll be back in a sec. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. We are going to look at the Teacher's Lounge in just a bit, but we're going to move swiftly on now to the Amy Winehouse biopic, which you probably could have guessed from the title. It is called Back to Black. I wouldn't say a massive Amy Winehouse fan. I was a fan. I appreciated her music. I appreciated her emotion that she could portray during the singing of any song. And I appreciated, the lyrics that she was really renowned for writing. But I'm interested to know how this portrays her.
Well, I mean, first of all, I was calling it Back in Black for about a week before the movie came out, completely by accident. And I think it was James King who turned around and said, do you realise that would be the AC/DC biopic, not the Amy Winehouse? So I'm like, cheers. Amy Winehouse biopic, directed by Sam Taylor Johnson, as in wife of Aaron Taylor Johnson, who has her own bag of issues, to be perfectly honest. Directed Nowhere Boy, directed the first 50 Shades of Grey. Not a wonderful director, if we're being really honest. She also did that A Million Pieces with Aaron Taylor Johnson, which was complete tosh. Right, she's now directed this, and we will get to Sam Taylor Johnson, believe me. So the biopic of Amy Winehouse, who we first meet aged 18, played by Marissa Abela, she's been in things, but she's not really someone you'd recognise, I don't think. As she's basically discovered, she's been on the sort of pub and club scene, as a singer, singing her own songs, etc. She's sort of got inroads with potential management. She gets her big break. We then see basically everything that you and I know happened with Amy Winehouse, which is her meteoric rise to stardom. And then her marriage to Blake Field of Seville, her battle with addiction, and ultimately her untimely death at the very disarmingly young age of, I think it was 28. I think she died at 28. So we wind up covering 10 years of her life in this. I've got a clip for you. To put this in context, this is the only clip that's actually been released for Back to Black. Sorry, that's the AC/DC one. Sorry, guys. This is the only clip that's been released really for Back to Black, and this is very early on when she's just recording her first album and then playing her first gig. So have a listen.
Thought you had so many lessons to learn. I say you don't know what love is. Get a grip. Sound as if you're reading from some other tired script. Cause I'm not gonna meet your mother anytime. I just wanna grip your body over mine.
Girl, no way you're only 18.
Firstly, is that Amy Winehouse singing or Marissa Abela?
That is actually Marissa Abela singing.
Wow.
It's a pretty good impersonation, isn't it? It's not bad. Right. That's about the best thing about the film, if we're being honest. Really, that's about the best thing. I found this excruciatingly bad. Right. To describe it as feckless Hollyoaks cosplay nonsense would, in my mind, be charitable. You and I know roughly as much as... I mean, did you see the 2015 documentary, Amy?
Yeah. Just
for anyone who hasn't seen that documentary, I thoroughly recommend seeking that infinitely better movie out and watching that, the documentary, rather than watching this absolute drivel. And, right, this thing goes on for 2 hours and 2 minutes. It feels throughout, like I say, Hollyoaks cosplay. Really, it's about that level of filmmaking. Sam Taylor Johnson has exactly 2 speeds of direction, which is, if there's a performance going on, she parks the camera in the 4th row, dead center, and occasionally intercuts with a side shot. That's her version of a musical performance. And then every other shot is basically, we'll do a close-up where it's blurred, and then we'll pull out as we focus. That's it. And you're like, oh, come on. weren't you supposed to be the next Wunderkind in the 2000s? With no, never mind. The dialogue has exactly one setting, which is expository. I mean, characters walk into rooms and literally detail the previous 6 months of what's happened. Like, that's the only thing they do. So, Amy, it's nice to meet you. You've just gone to America and done this and won that, and you've just done this. You never see any of this stuff. You're just told it. I mean, we don't get, you know, that montage that's in every one of these musical biopics where you get they usually play one of the big hits. Like if it's a Beatles, if you're doing a Beatles movie, for instance, then comparatively they'll play like "Can't Buy Me Love" as they intercut between them playing different shows and getting bigger and more famous. And they don't even do that. Like they don't. It's just that clip I just played. That's her rise to fame. At the onset of that clip, that was her recording the album, and at the end of the clip, she's performing in Ronnie Scott, right? And then she's a big star, winning awards. And you're like, wait, hang on a minute, we've seen none of this. It goes through 10 years of this woman's life, 10 years of, quite frankly, quite a profound life, with about all of the storytelling gravitas of G.I. Joe Retaliation. Now, on the casting front, Marissa Abella, not bad, but it does feel a bit... The problem is really in the cosplay element of it, because they never quite nail the look down. There's then Jack O'Connell. Now, you and I have discussed Jack O'Connell before, and you know exactly how I feel about Jack O'Connell. I think he's one of the worst British actors currently working. Having said that, whoever thought to cast him as a loutish scumbag... I'm trying to think of the words that I can actually say and broadcast simultaneously that Ofcom aren't going to kill us for. As I'll just say loutish scumbag. Whoever thought to cast Jack O'Connell as a loutish scumbag? Inspired casting. Well, he's perfectly cast. Brilliant. It works. It really works. He is, I would argue that he might be a bit too charming to be Blake Field as Seville. But that's when you then run into the film's biggest problem, which is, right, I'm not an Amy Winehouse fan, right? I didn't particularly care for the woman, largely because I was driven down, I was worn down by all the endless tabloid coverage, which, you know, the movie does go there. So I wasn't really an Amy Winehouse fan. I like the music that I have heard, you know, the obvious hits, you know, Valerie, you know, Back Black, Rehab, things like that. But the movie is so not only poorly written, but also quite recklessly written. So I'll go with the poorly bit first. You've got, as I say, dialogue that purely functions on an expository level. That's being badly directed, I should point out as well, you know, it has to be said. But it's full of those moments that Mark Kermode famously refers to. I had to ask him after the screen. I went, Mark, when you talk about the chubby moment, can you just remind me what movie that was? He's, it's from a TV movie called The Karen Carpenter Story. And it's that moment when, you know, that when they in dialogue say the thing that they are then going to be famous for. Now, Mark refers to it as chubby, which is a line of dialogue from the Karen Carter movie. There is genuinely a moment early on in this movie in which Amy Winehouse, more or less staring into camera, says, "You want me to go to rehab? No." You're like, oh, God, no. Oh, why? Oh, that level of absolutely crap writing. Yeah, you know what I mean?
No.
And then you've got the irresponsible side, which is, it's very, very obvious that the estate are involved in this. You've said before about how you prefer musical biopics when the subjects are deceased, right? We've had that.
It just makes more sense to me. Absolutely makes more sense, yeah.
Right. In this case, I think you would strongly feel the exact opposite. Because having gone through, with us all having lived through the Amy documentary and seen the response that Mitch Winehouse had to that movie, which is he did not like the depiction of him in that, despite the fact that it was apparently completely accurate, it's unsurprising that this movie sees Mitch Winehouse played as the most saintly, loving dad that has ever been. Not only that, Blake bloody Fielder Seville himself is a saint in this. At one point, he's genuinely telling Amy to get help, that she needs to come off the drugs and the drink. You think, hang on a minute, I've read a newspaper what are you talking about? And this goes on and on and on through it. And and the movie then, I mean, I don't want to get to the ending, which is, my jaw was on the floor by the time I got to the ending, thinking, what are you doing? Like, do you not think that she has friends, like living friends, who are gonna see this and be kind of offended to the very core of their existence? Because, god damn. So yeah, nothing about this for me really works. I mean, I will say that the casting-wise, brilliantly cast. I'm not going to say that Eddie Marsan doesn't make a good Mitch Winehouse. It's just he's not playing Mitch Winehouse because this does not bear any resemblance to Mitch Winehouse. Marissa Abella looks like she's in Hollyoaks level cosplay, and Jack O'Connell, very charming as Blake Fearless Seville. The only problem is Blake Fearless Seville was not in any way charming. So, yeah, if you are a fan of Amy Winehouse, you may well be outraged and offended by this. If you are not a fan of Amy Winehouse and you know nothing about her and you're coming to, the woman fresh on this, you are going to be very misinformed. Like, incredibly misinformed. Like, Bohemian Rhapsody took some liberties. This is complete fiction. Like, wow. There's an interview with Jack O'Connell in the Metro the other day in which he said that Sam Taylor Johnson had no interest in making an objective biopic. To which you sit and think, well, don't make a biopic then. Do what 30 Rock did with Janis Joplin, Janie Jorp, or whatever it was, the not Janis Joplin biopic, and make this about another singer. Do Dewey Cox, just make it a different singer who happens to bear a resemblance and similarity to. Don't make a biopic of an actual person if you don't want to tell their story. If your heart isn't in it, don't damn well do it. And that's what they've done here. Frankly, I think it's a terrible movie. I know that some critics have actually lauded it, and I can't for the life of me understand how. But no, I thought this was complete crap. Do not, under any circumstances, see this. I promise, and I mean you personally, Adam. Audiences can make up their own minds, but you personally do not see this, because I know exactly you're going to be offended to your core.
I mean, my final question was going to be, is it very accurate? But I think you've answered that. Well, if you want to go watch it, you can, because Back to Black is out in cinemas from today. We've got one last ride for you on this week's Off Screen. We're going to look at the Teacher's Lounge next, so stay there. Welcome back. We've got one last movie on Off Screen to talk about then that Van has already seen. I'm kind of hoping this is going to be ending with a banger. Let's look at The Teacher's Lounge, which is in cinemas from today. I know zero about this, so you're going to have to start from the very top.
So, I believe this is a German-made movie from director Ilka Katark. It's completely subtitles and no clip for this one for obvious reasons. This features a sort of a school in which one of the classes in this school is popular by 10-year-olds. So I think would that make it a senior school or a junior school? I'm not sure.
Junior, I think.
Junior. Right, so it's about a teacher, Ms. Novak, who's a Polish immigrant. She's a Polish immigrant who's grown up in Germany. He's a relatively new teacher, has come to this school, has been there for a few months by the time the film begins. And the school is gripped by a series of thefts, largely of cash. Someone is going into students' bags, into the teacher's lounge, and removing cash from bags and jackets and things. Our Ms. Novak, our lead, one day decides to sort of test the waters a little, leaves some cash in her jacket, puts it on the back of her chair in the teacher's lounge, and then sits her laptop directly opposite, recording, and then goes back later and checks it after she notices the money is gone. This then implicates a fellow member of staff who protests their innocence but won't address it any further, refuses to answer for herself, refuses to make excuses, simply storms off. However, she has a 10-year-old son who is also a student at the school and is one of Miss Novak's pupils, Oscar. And he then starts to act out, largely in defense of his mother. He maintains his mother's innocence. He's adamant that she deserves an apology. She's innocent, and he won't cooperate until he gets it. And this also comes to a boil at the same time that the school deals with effectively a mutiny amongst the pupils, who have previously been accused of these thefts, have taken to the student paper to write articles about it. There is infighting amongst the teachers themselves as to what to do. How do they deal with Oscar? How do they deal with his mum? Was it right that their liberties, their civil liberties, have been violated by this secret recording, etc.? And it all just basically builds to this level of emotional chaos in Miss Novak herself. I'll be honest with you, I knew nothing about this before I started watching it, and I thought it was absolutely terrific. I thought this was absolutely brilliant. You wouldn't think it. Completely, unannounced, no fanfare, German drama set in a school. It's not really got any action beats or anything like that. It's literally, it's teachers in meetings and in classrooms, just in discussions. And I'm trying to remember, Leonie, what was her name? Leonie Benesch, who plays Miss Novak. She has a first name, but I'm just going to call her Miss Novak. That's what pupils and all the staff call her. Teacher thing, isn't it? You just call them Ms. surname, don't you? Absolutely brilliant. Really, I'd say you've just got this really compelling drama anchored by this frankly simmering performance in the lead. It's a performance that will absolutely enthrall you. Go along with it, and you feel it. There is a sequence towards the middle of the film in which you get a literal representation of the psychological toll this is taking on Novak. And it's a really powerful moment. It's a really powerful moment of being sort of stood in the crowd in absolute despair. You can kind of see where it's going at times, but I think the resolution to it is a really strong one. Doesn't go with any kind of definitive resolution in the, happy. It's not a happy ending, it's not a sad ending. It goes with what I would describe as a real ending. In that way that things don't necessarily end. Civil War to an extent does this as well, where it's we're not going to Hollywood this. We're not going to give you, and here's your epilogue. It's just, here's the story. The story is done. That is it. Whether you think that is closure or not is up to you. But I think it works. I think it works very powerfully. But I say a lot of it is about that performance by Leonie Benesch, and I say the sense of environment, the sense of atmosphere, the way that you feel the confines of the school. There's a definitive sense of space. Like every corner of each room, you come to know quite vividly. You feel those walls tightening in as the story builds and builds. It's quite a short film as well. I think it was an hour 38. And it's about an hour 38. But I could have gone for another half an hour on this. I really could have. I really could have sat through an extra half hour of it because I was just gripped, end to end gripped, not only by the story and that screenplay, but by that performance. I thought that performance was absolutely terrific. I've not seen Leonie Benesch in anything before, but I'll definitely seek her out now.
It's quite eye-opening, actually, this week's of Off-Screen, because when you look at it this way, you've got Amy Winehouse's life that has got so many ups and downs, and it ends up being rubbish, in your opinion. Mm-hmm. And then you've got this that on paper is a whole movie about somebody stealing some money, but actually it's fantastic.
It really is, and I think it's about our sense of social justice and how, for instance, because I literally got in touch with my ex, who's a teacher. I actually got in touch with her after I saw a fascinating drama, a German drama about teachers this morning. You got to see this. She goes, "Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah, it's supposed to be really good." I'm like, "It really is." She's like, "Oh, okay. Send me the details. I'll look that up." So, yeah, I genuinely think, as I said to her, I think this is actually one of those things that they should show in teacher training as a sort of what would you do exercise, because it's quite fascinating, because you do find yourself in that position. As we said before, you find yourself in that position of you ask yourself, what is the right course here? What would I choose? What would I determine to be the right course of action / punishment in this scenario? How would I go about this? And as a parent, for instance, I think you'd be quite intrigued by the sort of the mental gymnastics you go through along this journey. But yeah, it's been an up and down week this week, I think, because we've had 2 bangers and 2 that suck. So yeah, I mean, I just try and space them out. So the even-numbered ones this week are good, and the odd-numbered ones are crap. So, yeah.
Well, you can make your own mind up if you want to go and see it, but it is subtitled. It's called The Teacher's Lounge in cinemas from today. I'm going to put you on the spot. Movie of the week. I think I know which one you're going to choose. Quite simply, it's going to be Civil War.
Civil War, hands down. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Alex Garland for the win, baby. Man goes out on a high. I put on my Insta story as soon as I came out when I'd quit filmmaking after that as well, because you're not going to top it, are you? But
well, that's the one I want to catch up with and watch, actually. So I'm going to make an effort to watch that one. Of course, all in cinemas from today. Let's have a quick look to next week then, shall we? What have we got to look at?
So next week we've got Daisy Ridley's new movie, Sometimes I Think About Dying. That's next week. We've got a documentary produced by Alicia Silverstone next week called I Could Never Go Vegan, which I've seen the documentary and I can tell you in advance, no, I still could never go vegan. Fantastic Machine is out next week, which I know very little about. The Book of Clarence, which is like a biblical comedy starring Lakeith Stanfield, which I'm really looking forward to. And The Biggie next week is the new vampire horror movie starring Melissa Barrera and I think Devon Sauer as well, who incidentally back on screens this week in Chucky Season 3. Can't wait to get to that. The movie in question is called Abigail, and we'll be talking about that next week.
Lots to look forward to. Well, that is all we've got time for on Off Screen this week. We will be back next week. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.